Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, you beautiful YouTube Tarkovians. My name is Onepeg, and this is another afternoon edition of the Newsy News. In today's news, a couple of things from Nikita Boyanev, and I guess, since people are asking about it, we'll talk about whether or not there's going to be a wipe soon. For those of you that may have not been following along super closely with all events related to Tarkov, very recently, the devs for Tarkov released 3 new images of 3 new bosses that we're going to end up seeing in the lighthouse location, most likely around the water treatment plant. One of the questions that's been getting asked, of course, is what is going to be lootable on these guys? And if I may, my hope is that Pipe and his grenade launcher will not be the most lootable thing in the world, either by making him extremely difficult to kill, by making him an extremely rare spawn, or just making the GL not lootable. As fun as that thing would be to use, the unfortunate reality is that is going to be a horribly exploited weapon and will end up being something that, for all intents and purposes, could be game-breaking. But a cooler and more harmless question came from this guy named Kongosaurus Rex, who asked, "Hey, please tell me that Knight's mask is going to be lootable." And of course, Nikita responded with, "Yes." Now, whether or not Nikita is just telling him what he wants to hear because he said, "Please tell me," and Nikita's trolling, or if it's actually going to be lootable, I'm not so sure, but I don't think Nikita would troll in this case. I think he's just saying that it's going to be lootable. No word as to whether or not the hair dreads, the cord dreads will end up being looted with it, or if the balaclava comes with it. I honestly hope it's the entire headpiece. I'd actually like to see what the dude looks like underneath the mask. I think that would be cool. But at the very least, we know that the skull piece, the head skull plate, will end up being a looted thing. Moving on from here, from Nikita's personal Twitter, we also have a message about a ban wave, where he writes, "We constantly commence ban waves of cheaters, but yesterday there was a wave that I want to note. Minus 9,000 cheaters." So that's good. That means for the next day, maybe up to 3 days, 72 hours, I think, is usually about the safe period. Unless, of course, you're planning on playing on Factory, in which case you're probably going to be in a lot of trouble. Cheaters, the majority of the cheaters, I would say, a huge wave of cheaters is now gone. So, if you're looking at possibly getting some good questing, farming in, right now would probably be the best time to play, maybe through the weekend. I would say come Monday, we're probably going to be back to business as usual. And right now, if you're going to end up playing on Factory, you're probably going to have a lot of head-eyes issues, if you know what I mean. Now, last but certainly not least, I think it's important to mention whether or not there's going to be a wipe anytime soon. Usually around now in a wipe cycle is when chats start devolving into when's the next wipe, or are we going to see a wipe, when's the next patch going to be, etc., etc., etc. Now, I want to be very clear and try to clear the air a little bit. When it came to the podcast that Nikita had set, the only thing that he said that was coming in like a week to a week and a half was the DLSS patch. He had not mentioned anything about the Rhino being introduced. He certainly didn't say anything about whether or not we were going to see the rogue bosses. So I don't think we're going to see any of that at all. If anything, all we're likely going to see is DLSS, and maybe there's going to be a little content snippet in there as well if they're going to end up doing some major patch to introduce DLSS to Tarkov. We did say that that was going to be a week to a week and a half, so we're probably still sitting on another, 4 days maybe on the outside as to whether or not we end up actually getting that in the time frame that they had set originally. Insofar as the track record for the wipe is concerned, BSG has been notorious for the last, 3 years maybe, where they're doing it on about a 190 to 210 day cycle. So about 6 months is when we usually end up seeing the game wipe. It's only been 3. So it's not likely that we're going to see a wipe happen until somewhere around July. It's just not realistic given how things have gone historically. I also don't think that we're going to end up seeing a Lighthouse patch for an expansion anytime soon either. Nikita ended up saying in the last dev blog that they weren't very soon on having that content completed. So we're really looking at something longer. And in my mind, that means July. I would say, much like all the other wipes that have come before this, well, not all, but most, you're probably going to be in for a little bit of a boring ride between now and then. Yeah, we're going to get DLSS, but I wouldn't expect a whole lot of content updates. Maybe we'll end up seeing something that has to do with improvement of netcode. Maybe we'll end up seeing a Unity 2020 patch, because I know that they've been testing that very actively with some other folks. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Thank you so much for coming by and checking out my content. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Most of the people that watch my videos are not subscribers. I would really, really appreciate your sub. We're getting super, super close to 100K, and I'd really, really like to get that plaque. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.